So it's a pretty safe bet to say that if you have not heard the phrase Black Lives Matter, either you are trying way too hard to be ironic, or you have been living under a rock for the last decade. Nevertheless, there is a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding surrounded around what Black Lives Matter is and what it isn't. So in this video, it is my intention to separate the facts from the biased propaganda. Welcome to Keith's Universe. So why make this video at all? Well, I have noticed that whenever I have seen a person of the white race, so to speak, talk about racial equality or racism in general, especially in regards to how poorly members of the black community and other racial minorities are treated, we're often asked, why do you care? Interestingly enough, I actually covered why I care in a video of that same name about 3 years ago, and I encourage you to check that out. To sum up, if I am a humanist and if I define humanism as putting the best interests of humanity first, then it goes hand in hand that I would support racial equality and subsequently support Black Lives Matter. And quite honestly, those who take issue with a white man supporting racial equality for racial minorities is akin to those who take issue with heterosexuals supporting LGBTQ rights or men being feminists. It's almost as if such people making such arguments lack the capacity to understand basic human empathy. And if anything, white people supporting Black Lives Matter is very significant. It is significant because we can try to inspire others of our race to show empathy and compassion to those of the black community and members of other racial minorities, and to understand how badly and how unfairly they are treated. But to get back to my main point, the Black Lives Matter movement was founded in 2013 by Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi, and Patrice Khan Cullors. The formation of the movement itself was inspired by the criminal case of George Zimmerman. Zimmerman was cleared of murdering an unarmed black teenager. If we live in a society that allows that to happen, and if that is what a legal court system defines as justice, something is not right. Then of course we have the case of George Floyd. Now, regardless to what originally prompted the arrest of George Floyd is no longer here nor there. The level of unnecessary force and sheer sadistic behavior to Floyd under police custody is completely and utterly inexcusable. One of the police officers in question had Floyd placed on the ground with his knees pressed against Floyd's chest. This resulted in Floyd repeatedly saying over and over again, "I cannot breathe, I cannot breathe." The officer's knees were pressed aggressively into Floyd's chest, which obviously caused him to suffocate to death. If this is how any police officer conducts an arrest, something is not right. Yes, the police officers in question have been dismissed and they have been legally charged and so on and so forth. But that's not good enough. And it's never going to be good enough until officers of the law and the general public start seeing persons of racial minorities as their equals. Unlike white people, those within racial minorities often fall victim of racial profiling. And it happens a lot more often than you would think. CNN published a very interesting and very comprehensive and a very well sourced article entitled, "This is why everyday racial profiling is so dangerous." Within the article, it outlines a very embarrassing racial profiling incident involving Darren Martin, a former Obama staff person. Martin, upon moving into his New York apartment, had a neighbor call the police on him and accused him of being an armed burglar. Obviously, that was not the case at all, and he was far from armed. This false report resulted in 6 police officers reporting to his home to investigate the situation. Martin also recalls several incidents when he is requested to show his pockets when visiting certain stores. Martin refers to these instances as dehumanizing. And that really is the takeaway from all of this, because they are dehumanizing. It is a complete and utter lacking to acknowledge that persons of color are human too, and they deserve the same level of opportunities, the same level of respect and dignity. Of course, this is not the only case of racial profiling. Quite recently, a golf course owner called the police on a group of black women because they were playing too slowly. While touring a college campus, a mother called the police on two native students because they made her nervous. And a white student at Yale called the police because a black student was taking a nap in a dorm building. Then back in 2017, Dale Semper, a black man who was also a bank manager, was accused of carrying firearms when driving home. No firearms were ever found. This was a case of police refusing to accept that a black man of all people would be able to have such amount of money or be able to afford such nice cars without having legal activity behind it. I think a lot of people don't realize the psychological trauma and effect on mental health that racial profiling can inflict upon persons of the black community and other racial minorities. According to Rachel Gotzel of the Perception Institute, there are enormous health consequences to those experiencing these everyday harms because of the consistency of this stress. On top of that, there is clear racial discrimination all across the board, from disproportionately unfair insurance rates, especially in regards to car insurance. Lack of opportunities in regards to the likelihood of being hired by employers. According to studies, a lot of this has to do with a lot of employers, sadly, basing callbacks on stereotypical names of all things, regardless of a person's credentials. So this is just an insight to some of the ways the black community and other racial minorities are treated. And as a humanist, I find it completely inexcusable to how poorly these individuals are treated by not just the law enforcement, but many members of society and how they treat them too. But I would like to make a few brief notes to those parroting "all lives matter." Well, first of all, you've missed the entire point. That's the first thing. And secondly, the only people who truly don't accept that all lives matter are the very people contributing to this systemic racism. Because you see, all lives won't matter until members of these minorities are really treated as equals. And when I say really treated as equals, I'm not talking about simply creating the illusion that they are treated as equals. What I'm talking about is seeing beyond the color of their skin, beyond their ethnicity, beyond their culture, because when it all comes down to it, they're human beings too. Black Lives Matter isn't about black lives being above white lives. It is about black lives mattering too. It is about equal status and fairness. We can't be assuming a person is a criminal solely based on their appearance. We can do better. In fact, we must do better. We have to do better. As always, all source links for today's topic are included down below in the description area. I'd appreciate it if you would like this video, if you would share it on social media and participate in the conversation of this topic by either posting a comment down below, or you can submit a video response by checking out the video response hashtag. And until next time, everyone, freedom, peace, and love.